Everyone, I am David Lee of Strong by Lee. Happy New Year. Technically, we're 12 days into 2021, and it is Transformation Tuesday. This Transformation Tuesday, let's talk about the typical how to start the new year off with a bang. New year, new you. I know not everyone believes in the whole New Year's thing and the resolutions. For a long time, I've been pretty reserved about New Year's resolutions because since I used to work at a big box gym in White Plains, I saw it all the time. The New Year's resolutioners, a lot of personal trainers used to complain about them, but they need help just like anyone else. And if for every 100 person, if for every 100 New Year's resolutioners who come in, 10 or 15 of them will stick with their habits. And I think that's a win because I personally believe that everyone should get the chance to get healthier and get more fit, no matter how many times it takes. It might just take a different approach. It might just take an extra year, who knows, but we're gonna try. And I'm gonna try to provide as much information and value as possible. You're gonna watch me talk, and maybe I'll ask some questions throughout, have you do some exercises, have you do some reflections to see what you want to take out of this discussion. I'm a personal trainer and a registered dietitian. I've been doing this for about 10 years. A registered dietitian meaning I'm licensed to provide meal plan, meal programming, clinical nutrition. So I work with people with medical conditions and on prescription medications, people who have diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease, heart disease, cancer. I worked in outpatient bariatric clinic and also in eating disorder. And I did my rotation through Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville. For people who do not know who I am and this is your first time, that's just a very quick background on me. And today we're going to talk about how to establish goals, how to establish good habits. I feel every time we do one of these Transformation Tuesdays, we are talking about, well, what can we do to establish good habits? What are habits? What are goals? First of all, there is no magic formula or a magic time frame that's associated with habit formation. Study after study gives us a wide range of how long it might take to establish a habit. There's a common time for these, like 21 days or 30 days or 66 days. But a lot of research says anywhere between like 20 days to 250 days. It really depends on a lot of factors. We're going to go through some of those factors today. Maybe try to identify possible roadblocks you may run into, common roadblocks I discuss with my clients, and possible strategies. The first thing that I think would be good for us to do is to think for a few seconds of what you want to achieve this year, whether it's a continuation of what you did last year or in the past, whether you're trying to stay consistent or you actually want to use this new year as a restart button, as a recovery, or as like I said, a new year, new you. If you want to share with me in the chat what you want to do, you want to write them down on a piece of paper, or you want to jot the goals down into your phone, I think it'll be good if you haven't already, because that is step number one. If you want to start off on the right foot of goal formation and habit formation, you want to write it down. You want to write it down and you want to either visualize it or put it down on paper concretely so you know exactly what it is you want to achieve so your eyes can see it, because there's a difference between seeing it in your mind's eye and seeing it in your actual eye. And then we will build off from there. We'll try to create some sort of flow chart or hierarchy to help you achieve those goals. So write down your goals, think about it a little bit. Maybe some big important goals could be you want to lose weight. Try to be as vague as possible because we're going to get more specific, or the idea is to get more specific as time goes on. You want to get healthier, you want to get stronger, you want to build muscle, you want to manage your diabetes, you want to sleep better, you want to become more active, whatever the case is. Try to think of a goal that you want to work on, that you've struggled with in the past. The next thing we want to address is this whole idea of New Year's resolutions. there's a weird psychology with us. For some reason, people who tend to have, people who tend to start a new goal tend to do better than people who have struggled in the past and want to try to achieve those goals again. For example, let's say last New Year's, you wanted to get to the gym 5 days a week or whatever. Let's say you wanted to become more active and you did it for a couple of months and then you fell off. Since you fell off until this year, if you have been inconsistent, it's going to be more difficult for you to get back on track than somebody who has not had that goal before. For new goal setters, it's easier. It comes a little bit more effortlessly than somebody who has struggled in the past. That's something that I don't know if people knew. I'm sure many people know this intuitively, especially when I work with clients and they come to me. They're usually, when they come to me, it's not their first rodeo. They've either worked with personal trainers in the past, or they have tried to live a healthier lifestyle in the past. For some reason, they weren't able to succeed. They have a much more difficult time, even with me holding them accountable and being their personal trainer. People who come to me and they are starting a brand new fitness journey have a much easier time, for the obvious reason that it's a novel experience and it's something that they actually want to do. Maybe they've been thinking about it. That's another thing that we want to take into consideration. So we're thinking about our goals and we're thinking about what our relationship is with those goals, whether those goals are new or they're old. We also want to next think about if there are any formulas. I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that there are no special formulas. Technically, there aren't any special formulas, meaning if you do this, it's going to automatically help you achieve more. There isn't anything like that, because while one particular strategy might help Mary, then that strategy might not help Debbie. It's different for everybody because everyone's situation is different. Everyone's psychology is different. Everyone's environment is different. We need to take all of those things into account. However, there are some general guidelines we can go off by, and there are two. I'm going to share two of them with you today. The first one is called SMART. This is the most common one. This is something that I learned when I was going through school. And I believe Z shared a couple of links. I don't know if she's going to share those links with people. But SMART is a framework of it's an acronym of 5 letters, and it stands for S means I think it's sensible. M means measurable. A means attainable. R means realistic, and T means like time-based. So we're trying to be, S means specific. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. S means specific, M means measurable, A means attainable, R means realistic, and T means time-bound. There's some sort of timeline. If you can take that specific goal you have, let's say you want to lose weight, and try to break it out, SMART goals, yes, SMART, S-M-A-R-T. And you want to use that acronym to help you break down those goals, it can help you. However, I would think that's a little bit more involved, especially when I work with general fitness people who want to get healthier and just want to get more fit. They're not looking to become the next Ironman or bodybuilder or CrossFitter. They just want to get healthier and they want to start moving more. One framework I use is called OKR. R means relevant, yes. OKR, it stands for objectives and key results. This was a system that was popularized by the previous CEO, Andy Grove of Intel. OKR essentially stands for objective, which is your goal. Let's say you want to lose weight, and then KR means key results. So what are the 3 key results or 3 things, behaviors that you believe you should do in order to meet that objective? So if you're looking to lose weight, what do you think you need to do? Maybe you need to go to the gym. How many times do you want to go to the gym? And you want to be a little bit specific with the key results. Let's say you want to go to the gym 3 times. Then you want to eat healthier. Let's say you want to eat 3 servings of vegetables per day. And then you want to go to sleep. Let's say you want to go to bed by 11 p.m. every night. So those are the key results. You want 3 specific behaviors that are related to your objectives to help you achieve them. So you have SMART goals, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. And then you have OKR, which stands for objectives and key results. They're essentially the same thing, but OKR is a little bit more streamlined. It's a little bit more simple, in my opinion. And it also allows you to break down which behaviors you should actually do per goal. Woohoo! Hopefully we're good so far. Any questions? Nothing so far. Perfect. All right. We're going to move on. Next, when it does come to habit and goal formation, I don't think it's as simple as knowing exactly what to do. Even if you write down what you know or what you think you should do, it's not so simple because it's easier said than done, right? There are a few things I believe, if we want to give ourselves the best chances to achieve them, to keep in mind. And one of the links that Z shared, a company called Precision Nutrition wrote an article about goal formation. Precision Nutrition is a certifying organization. They're a health organization, but they also offer certifications for nutrition, which I am also a certified nutrition coach through Precision Nutrition. The way they approach coaching and the way I approach coaching is not necessarily placing a focus on tactics and strategies and hacks, because I can tell anyone, you need to go to the gym 5 days a week for 45 minutes a day. You need to work this muscle part this day and that muscle part that day and blah, 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 blah. Those are really easy. All those technical stuff, they're really easy because those are the things we learn as personal trainers. What they don't usually teach us as personal trainers is how do we look at the mindset, the psychology, the behavioral aspects of behavior change, because that's probably the most important thing. One of my favorite sayings, I don't know who made it up. I think I started saying it, but I'm not very creative and I'm not very innovative. So I'm pretty sure somebody else made it up before me. And I say transformation doesn't just happen from the neck down, it also happens from the neck up, right up here. If you can't be in the right headspace, it's really difficult to get into the right body space. There are plenty of athletes I know who, whether they're playing a sport or for a certain or a specific time during their life, they were all about sports, all about fitness, all about eating healthy. And then let's say they get injured or their career ends, they get a job, they finish college, and all of a sudden, because they don't have sports anymore, they just kind of, they have no idea what they're going to do. That's because the reason they were involved with fitness wasn't associated nearly strong enough with how they thought about themselves, meaning, did they think about what they were doing in terms of behaviors, or was it just something that they automatically, naturally identified with? If somebody's been playing sports all of their lives, like most personal trainers, not me, I didn't grow up playing sports. The first sports I ever played were in high school as a senior. Like, who starts playing a new sport as a senior? And I did terrible. I quit every single one because back then I was a quitter. I had terrible self-confidence. And then I joined the military and the rest was history. And I learned how to stand up for myself and be more courageous while I was serving in the military. But case in point, if we're not being cognizant of our behaviors and the way that we're thinking about those behaviors and how those behaviors are affecting us, then it's going to be really difficult. We don't want to, while we want fitness to eventually become automatic, in the beginning, we don't want it to be automatic. We don't want to be on autopilot. We want to be aware and mindful of our behaviors and how those behaviors are affecting us. It's a lot of work up front because it's our health, right? What are the three? There is an author I really like. His name is Naval Ravikant. He is an angel investor. He was one of the original investors of Uber. He believes, as human beings, there are three things we really strive for. We strive for wealth, we strive for happiness, and we strive for health. Health is the part of the trifecta I try to address. However, what I notice is when my clients get healthier, they might not become more materially wealthy, but they just feel wealthier. I don't know if that sounds weird, but they just feel wealthier because they just feel better about themselves. And in turn, that makes them happier because maybe, I don't know, maybe because they feel healthier. So health, wealth, and happiness. So I think you can't disconnect those three, especially when it comes to how you're going to change your behaviors. Any questions so far? How we doing? Z, we good? Okay. All right. Next, what the precision nutrition does go over is in terms of behavior change, outcome versus process. One big reason I believe a lot of people do not see the results that they want is because they hyper-focus on the end result. They're paying so hard attention to the mountain off in the distance that they kind of lose sight of the road in front of them. What's that saying? Missing the forest for the trees, or missing the trees for the forest? I think it's missing the forest for the trees. You're right. So there's a big picture and then there's a small picture. People who are so focused on looking a certain way and trying to achieve that at any cost will generally have a lower success rate for a multitude of reasons. The main reason is what I was just mentioning a couple of minutes ago. It's because they're not mindful and aware of the decisions that they're making. So instead of being so focused on the end result is important, but instead of being so focused on the end result, maybe we can be focused on how we are behaving, the process. This goes back to OKR, see how it's all tying in together. The OKR method, where you're looking at your objectives and then you're looking at your key results. Key results, what are the behaviors that you need to capitalize on day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, in order to make progress? That's part of the process. There's outcome versus process. The next one is avoidance versus approach. How often do we tell ourselves that we shouldn't do this? There's some sort of negative connotation. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. I need to stop eating sugar. I need to stop stressing out so much. I need to stop. I need to not do this anymore. Those are all very normal. That's very normative language, right? And where did we learn that from? Who told us that we shouldn't be doing these things anymore? I'm sure that's a loaded question. I don't want to answer that. I just want people to think, where did we learn this, don't do that language from? So instead of being so negative, perhaps what could help is being a little bit more positive. Not positive as in I'm going to hype you up, I'm going to motivate you, but positive in the sense of approach things in a way where you can do them, you can add them. So instead of saying, I need to stop eating sugar, you can say, I'm going to start eating more healthy fruits, or I'm going to start eating healthier foods that have naturally occurring sugars. You can say, instead of saying, I'm not going to eat cakes and cookies anymore, you can say, I'm going to start eating more strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries, for example. Instead of saying, I'm not going to, stress out anymore. You could say, when I am feeling stressed out, I'm going to try to go for a walk, or I'm going to try to go to the gym. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to spin a negative into a positive. I don't know if that's going to be helpful for people. That's been helpful for me. And it's certainly been helpful for my clients. Why? Because when clients come in to see me and I keep telling them, don't do this, don't do that, it puts them in a funk. A lot of people don't want to be told not what to do, when the other language can also be just as effective in terms of motivating somebody, but not make them feel as bad. Okay. Next one, mastery versus performance. I don't know how many of you have a history of athletics and sports. If you do, you're way beyond me, because I don't. I'm a personal trainer, but I became a personal trainer mainly because I wanted to help myself. I felt so terribly about myself that I felt that the only way to help myself is to force myself to help others. And so it's accountability by others. So my clients keep me on my toes. Most people who do this whole fitness thing I'm gonna use this in the most polite way possible. We're fools. And there is the saying, before you become the master, you're the fool. And then there's also another saying, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And when you're the student, and then when you're ready, you eventually become the teacher. You're first a fool, especially if you don't have a history with fitness, because you probably don't know what you're doing specifically. Even if you make those OKRs and you say, I need to go to the gym 3 days per week, there's a certain threshold in which the specificity stops. I need to go to the gym 3 days per week. Well, what do I need to do at the gym? Should I do cardio, or should I go lift, or should I do yoga? What should I do at the gym? And that is where a little bit more personalization is involved. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, when something works for one person might not work for another person. Somebody who wants to get healthier, manage stress, might benefit more from taking a yoga class versus somebody who needs to lose 50 pounds. They probably could benefit from going for a walk for 30 minutes. So I think we need to delineate between those things. So we're a fool. We don't really know exactly what we are doing. Even when we establish a habit, let's say after the 250 days, which is usually the top end of the average that research has found, even after you've established a habit and you're comfortable, eventually that habit is going to stop working. Eventually you're going to reach your goal. Then what? Well, then you have to kind of dip your toes into the pool of fool again. You don't really know exactly how you're going to reach the next level, although you're on a different platform. So if you're starting here, you move up to the next platform because you reached the goal, but then there's another platform up here and you're trying to work your way up, but you don't know exactly how to get. It's like Donkey Kong. It's like the Donkey Kong game where you're trying to work your way up. You never know how you're going to get up there. If that's the case, if most of the time we're going to start off as fools, we can't expect ourselves to become masters overnight or even after 250 days. So then what we can try doing then is, instead of focus on becoming a master or getting good at something or becoming a perfectionist or getting upset when we don't see the results that we want, we can focus on what we are currently doing. This is a concept called mastery versus performance. Mastery is assuming that we have this particular vision of ourselves at the end stage, whereas performance is a vision of us as what are we doing day to day? Are we making progress? For example, a lot of my clients come to me, especially my female clients come to me, they can't do a push-up when they first come see me. And this is the case for a lot of women, regardless of their age. A lot of women cannot do push-ups. So when they come to see me and I ask them in our assessment, how do you do with push-ups? They're a lot of 9 times out of 10, they laugh in my face. Like, push-ups? I've never been able to do a push-up in my life. It's like, all right, well, we're going to learn how to do a push-up. And they're like, huh, over my dead body. Not because they don't want to, but because they have no self-confidence. They have no confidence that they can achieve a push-up, whether it's because they have never tried before, they believe push-ups are too hard, or they have tried before and they weren't able to succeed. But the push-up is kind of what's called, it's a stretch goal, meaning it's not something you can achieve right now or tomorrow. You have to stretch a little bit. You have to go a little bit beyond your comfort zone in order to achieve it. But it is achievable. Going back to the SMART one where it says attainable. A push-up is attainable for a vast majority of women. What we do is not to focus on, oh, well, you're going to do 10 push-ups today, but say, hey, you know what? Yesterday, you were able to just hold your body in the top position of a push-up. Then the next week, you are able to hold it a little bit longer. And then the next week, you're able to improve your performance and maybe go down halfway and then come back up. So we're going for performance rather than seeing ourselves knock out a push-up from day one. Z asked me a question. David, can you give suggestions for valuable supplements? One of our participants is asking. Okay, we'll go over that during the strategies, and we're getting close to the strategies. We're halfway through, and then once the strategies, we'll go through some of the more practical stuff. Hopefully that's okay. So we're just trying to set, I guess we're trying to set the foundation here, and the foundation being the mindsets, right? So the three things we just went over: outcome versus process. So instead of hyper focusing on the end result, let's look at the road that's right in front of you and be more mindful and aware of what you're currently doing. Then we have the avoidance versus approach method, where you're trying to flip the language. Instead of being negative, you're trying to be more positive, if that's something you catch yourself engaging in. And then there is mastery versus performance. Rather than expecting to be a master and achieving whatever goal within a certain time frame, or having these really high expectations of yourself, take it slow, be patient, and focus on your performance, just the little bits of progress that you are going to make. You will make progress if you're consistent. Research shows there is no such thing as a non-responder to exercise. I once worked with an 84-year-old man who has never exercised in his life. He came to me because he wanted to improve his heart health. He had a pacemaker. Even he saw results through consistency. Obviously not as fast as somebody who is 18 years old, but there is no such thing as a non-responder to, well, maybe there are, but 99.9% of people will see results from exercise. Okay, before we move on to the next section, do we have any questions? The next section is going to talk about some potential roadblocks that we can consider. No questions so far. Okay, so roadblocks, there probably are questions. I'm just not seeing them right now. Roadblocks, think about some roadblocks you have. You may have encountered in the past, maybe that you're seeing right now, maybe you anticipate in the future. What are some roadblocks? Could it be your schedule? Could it be work? Could it be stress, your kids, your environment? What do you think are some potential roadblocks? The number one thing, probably the most important thing that we want to look at when it comes to habit formation is consistency. And this is what research has shown, study in and study out, it is consistency. Now, what's interesting is in these studies, looking at the various ranges in which people can form their habits, even if you miss a day or two here and there, it normally doesn't affect the big picture. However, we have to be cognizant of the fact that these people, these subjects, knew they were in a study. If you know you're in a study that looks at habit formation, there's already going to be a bias. You're going to probably be more aware since you're either getting paid or your results are going to get published. You're probably going to be more selective and more aware of what you're doing. We can't always go off of the research like that. We have to take it with a grain of salt, but it does give us some perspective. Consistency is the main thing. And what are some roadblocks that could hinder your efforts in consistency? Your environment. James Clear, in his book, Atomic Habits, and this is part of my book list, Atomic Habits, he believes there are two big things that really screw us up when it comes to establishing habits. That's our environment. So what surrounds us? Who surrounds us? Whether it's people, our social network that is comprised of saboteurs, or it's our physical environment, whether we have a bunch of no-no foods, I say this in air quotes, no-no foods in our pantry, things we know we probably shouldn't eat if we want to lose weight or get healthier. So we have our environment, and then we have our identity. Identity, without getting too deeply into it, is basically who we see ourselves as, how our previous experiences, everything that led up to this point have shaped how we identify ourselves, and then how we want to identify ourselves in the future. If you want to become more fit, let's use that as an example. If you want to become more fit and you want to improve your chances of becoming more fit, then you have to see yourself as a fit person. In other words, there's that saying, fake it till you make it. I am a fit person. And because I am a fit person, I will do fit people things. And what do fit people do? Fit people go to the gym. Fit people eat healthy. Fit people manage their stress. These are all easier said than done. But the identity part is absolutely crucial. There's also another book. It's not fitness related. I guess it's life related. It is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. It was first written by a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz. This is probably one of the most important, I don't like this term, self-help books I've ever read, because he introduced me to the concept of identity several years ago when I first read this book. I think this book came out in the 50s or the 60s, and I read it about 6-7 years ago. I've been a personal trainer for 10 years. I got a late jump. I read it about 6-7 years ago, and it completely changed my perspective. Yes, Atomic Habits by James Clear, and then Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. This one right here. You're probably going to get a glare, but yes, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. This completely changed my perspective when it came to talking to my clients, because rather than looking at my clients as somebody who does particular behaviors, let's say Bob just goes to the gym. He wants to get healthy. He goes to the gym. Rather than doing that, I tried to get Bob to see himself as a fit person, even if he didn't see himself as a fit person, because we gravitate towards some sort of vision of who we want to be and what we want to be. So identity is really important. If you could write that down or try to internalize it, what identity do you want for yourself? So there's identity, and then there is environment, and those two things will really impact how well you are consistent. Okay. Next, we'll go over some of the practical strategies. What can we do to help? This is probably the portion many people were waiting for. I know we had to wade through a bunch of the swamp in order to get here, but hopefully I set a decent foundation for people. We're going to go through some strategies. The first question, let's answer the first question. Somebody was asking, what are some valuable supplements? The first thing, before answering the first thing that we want to go over, is supplement is just that. It is a supplement. If you're thinking that a supplement will improve your health and you're not looking at the other areas of your life, you're going to be making a fatal mistake, in that you're going to be relying on the supplement as a crutch, which it should not be. In order for a supplement to have the best possible effects, you want to have a strong foundation. It's kind of like we're setting a foundation right here. We're setting a foundation of a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of background, before we build the goods, before we put the frosting on it. The frosting is the strategy. Frosting is the supplements. Make sure that we have a solid base to put the supplement on. It also depends on what your goal is for the supplements. You can take there are so many supplements out there, thousands of supplements, and most of them are not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. Companies can generally put whatever claim they want on these supplements. For example, conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, which is a type of fat that you will find in dairy. It has been touted as a fat loss assistant, blah, blah, blah. It's good for you. Guess what? CLA is a trans fat. We know how unhealthy trans fat is, but there are different types of trans fat. CLA is the healthy type of trans fat. Yes, there are different types of trans fat, and CLA is the healthy one, and it's supposed to be good for fat loss. But guess what? Studies have shown that it's not all that helpful for fat loss, yet companies still put out this claim that it's good for fat loss. And it's not that cheap. A month's supply would probably run you like $30, $40. It's not super cheap versus vitamin B, a B complex. A B complex is something that we need as humans. We can supplement with the B complex if we know we don't have a healthy diet, and we know that the B complex would help fill in some of the gaps. And it's relatively inexpensive. You can get a month's supply of B vitamins for like $5, $6. If you go to Vitamin Shop, CVS, Vitacost.com, Target, any of those things. If we're talking about general health, we're looking at a good quality multivitamin, just as a stopgap until you start improving your health. A good quality multivitamin I generally stay away from like store brands like Walmart, Target, in Vitamin Shop. I think my preferred place to shop for vitamins is a website called VitaCost, VitaCost.com. I don't get any kickbacks, but VitaCost is an online retailer only. They have any supplement that you want, and their house brand of multivitamin is actually very good. Although they have so much variety, you can get really, really confused. But a multivitamin, and these are usually the first things I will recommend to people. Multivitamin, a fish oil supplement. If you don't eat enough fish, specific fish like tuna, salmon, I'm going to say some weird ones, sardines, herring could be kippers. Those are the big omega-3 fishes that have the highest concentration of omega-3s. There are vegetable sources of omega-3 such as walnuts and flax seeds, but if you can do the fish, I would do the fish. If you can do the omega-3 fatty acid supplement, I would do that. And then the vegetable source would go next. The next one would be vitamin D, if you could do vitamin D. The next one would be powdered magnesium. Powdered magnesium. Over 80% of Americans are deficient in magnesium. And that's because magnesium, the type of magnesium that our body uses is mainly found in the bone. Since magnesium is a mineral and is one of the main minerals that comprise bones, that's where you're going to find it. You're not really going to find it in the bloodstream. The bloodstream is not a good indicator of magnesium status, but powdered magnesium, there's a patented form of powdered magnesium by a company called Natural Calm. It's effervescent. So you put it in some water, it fizzes up like Alka-Seltzer. It doesn't taste like Alka-Seltzer, and you drink it and it helps relax you. I love magnesium. So those three, you got those four. We got the multivitamin. We have omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, magnesium. I think those four are usually pretty good to start most people off on, as long as they don't have any specific medical condition that would prevent them from taking those things. Let's supplement for now. And then of course, the protein supplements. And I know many people might be interested in fat loss supplements, but we're not really going to talk about those things because opening up another can of worms. What to do to improve short-term memory? Crossword puzzles? Just kidding. That's a myth, right? If one crossword puzzle a day keeps the doctor away, I don't know if that's a myth or not. Short-term memory. There is a book called the Alzheimer's Program by Dale Bredesen. He talks a lot about how our lifestyle, what we eat, and what type of exercises we do affect our risk of cognitive decline, dementia, and Alzheimer's. One of the things he recommends is trying to eat with your left hand, trying to do as many things with your non-dominant hand. So for me, left hand would be my non-dominant, trying to do things with your left hand as much as possible. Brushing your teeth with your left hand if you normally do it with your right hand, opening the door with your left hand, eating with your left hand, not necessarily writing with your left hand unless you're trying to practice. I wouldn't use that as your John Hancock. Also, while you're brushing your teeth or doing anything, stand on one foot, work on your balance, because the balance will not only engage the muscles in your lower leg, in your glutes, your abs, and your back, but it also forces your brain to work overtime since you're trying to multitask. But that level of multitasking isn't something that's super strenuous. It's not like texting and driving. That's not only strenuous, that's also very dangerous. So you want to try to figure out ways you can multitask without it taking away from the main task that you're doing. Because we are poor multitaskers, and whatever task you're going to multitask with, you're probably going to be a little bit less efficient. Irwin Naturals. I have heard of Irwin Naturals. I am not familiar with them because there are thousands of brands out there. I've heard of Irwin Naturals. I'm not familiar with anything positive or negative about them. Yes, The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen. It's a fantastic book. I have the first one. He has two books. The End of Alzheimer's is the book where he goes into the history, the background, the framework of Alzheimer's and cognitive decline, introduces his protocol, which is essentially, it's a combination of intermittent fasting, in which you choose a specific time frame during the day in which you eat, and then for the rest of the day, you're fasting. You're not eating or drinking anything that contains calories. Then so you have intermittent fasting, and then ketogenic diet, meaning a very low carbohydrate diet. Depending on who you talk to, this flies in the face of most health experts. In fact, Sanjay Gupta just came, he is the CNN chief medical correspondent, just came out with a book. And he believes, his book is on, I think it's called Aging Well, or it's about aging, cognitive decline. And he recommends against the ketogenic diet. You have to be really, that's why you have so many different experts saying so many different things. You want to assess your current situation and see if it can be improved by doing something different, and then experiment with it. I am personally a leaner supporter towards a lower carbohydrate approach when it comes to cognitive decline, because there's such a tight association between diabetes and cognitive decline. So I would think my first option would be a ketogenic diet, which is a very low carbohydrate diet, high fat diet, high fat being you're doing the oils, you're doing an avocado, you're doing cream, you're doing cheese. If you do the meat products, you're doing meats. You can do a vegetarian ketogenic diet, although it's very difficult. So you combine the ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, and that is essentially the protocol for Dale Bredesen. But then, of course, he has a bunch of other things that he goes into. One-a-day pills. I've heard of one-a-day pills like Centrum. There are a lot of companies that do create multivitamins where you just pop one pill a day. That is the lowest bar for supplements, right? Because it's all relative, right? Some supplements, if you take 3 pills of it, it can help get you out of a sort of deficiency. Let's say you're in a deep vitamin D deficiency. You are dark skinned, you don't go out, you don't take any vitamin D supplements, you don't eat any foods that contain vitamin D, you are in deep vitamin D deficiency. You're going to probably megadose with vitamin D until you come up to normal levels. And then once you come up to normal levels, then you will kind of taper off. You may still supplement a little bit, you may not, it all really depends. Most multivitamins a good multivitamin, you'll be taking anywhere between 3 to 6 pills. I know that's crazy, 3 to 6 pills. Some of them are freaking horse pills like that. No, they're not that big, maybe like this big. Hello. But some of them are a little bit smaller. They might be tablets, they might be pills. You can also do multivitamins that are drinks. You can put in a smoothie, you can drink it with a spoon. But one-a-days are usually not going to provide you with enough of a particular nutrient to be considered a very effective supplement. Although, they have them. It's good for people who are just kind of in a low maintenance phase. Let's see. Immune system, an overactive immune system. If you have an overactive immune system and literally your body is attacking itself, that's kind of what happens in COVID, right? When your body starts attacking itself, let's say type 1 diabetes is a specific example of an autoimmune disease. You can also have lupus. You have rheumatoid arthritis. You have many different things. There's a thing called you can do what's called an autoimmune diet. There's a thing called autoimmune diet, and it's probably one of the most restrictive diets out there because it's essentially an elimination diet. Overactive immune system will be very sensitive to any input, whether it's environmental, such as like your lotion or the air you breathe, the food that you eat, the quality of your water. You have to be very careful. So an elimination diet will take out all of the potential allergens being peanuts, eggs, grains, soybeans, dairy, certain types of fish. That's essentially what an overactive immune system will do. You have to, people with an autoimmune issue, that's the group of people who have to be a little bit more careful with exercise, because what exercise essentially is stress. When exercise is a way for your body to overcome small doses of stress so you get stronger over time. So somebody who has an overactive immune system will hyper respond to exercise. So you have to be careful. I'm not going to give any specific tips or nutrition or exercise habits for people with overactive immune system. I would like for you to email me, because those are medical conditions and I don't think it's appropriate right now to go over it. How good are the supplements when these statements, gotcha. How good are these supplements? They can be good. Evaluated, that's the key term. Evaluated simply being the FDA either has not approved any sort of funding or studies for a particular supplement, or they just never really looked into it. The FDA, like, there are thousands of supplements coming out every single week. There's no way that the FDA is going to be, there's no way the FDA is going to look at every single supplement and put people through a trial and see how effective it is. What most companies will do is they will take supplements that have some sort of track record and slap some sort of label. Like vitamin D, many people know what vitamin D is responsible for. Creatine, if people have never heard of creatine, it is a favorite supplement many fitness enthusiasts use. It's actually one of the three clinically proven ways to improve your performance, your strength, your muscle gaining, and your performance. So if you're trying to get into this whole fitness thing, let's say you've established good habits and you were like, you know what, I want to take things to the next level. Creatine is one of the three. The other two also begin with the letter C: creatine, carbohydrates, and caffeine. If you have those three nutrients in your plan during a fitness program, you're probably going to get the best possible results that any supplement could possibly give you. So the evaluated statement thing, I take it with a grain of salt, the same way that I take a lot of claims given by supplement companies with a grain of salt. Now, some companies will do their own research. If they have independent funding, let's say I have a bunch of money and there's a particular supplement that looks really promising, I may hire somebody or I may hire a team to do an independent study on it. I can't say that the Food and Drug Administration has approved it or anything like that, right? Because the Food and Drug Administration is a government agency. I can't say that they've approved it, but I can definitely have my own label say, in independent studies and third-party lab tested, this has been shown in blah, blah, blah to improve blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, you have to put that disclaimer, the FDA has not evaluated, so on and so forth. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, those are all the questions so far. Have you ever coached somebody with epilepsy? Epilepsy, that's interesting. I'm going to make this one point. Epilepsy, the ketogenic diet was created to address epilepsy. People with grand mal seizures. This ketogenic diet, a very low carbohydrate approach, was designed specifically for epilepsy. This is why doctors, and Dale Bredesen is a doctor, he believes that sugar is the main culprit in cognitive decline. Because when you eat sugar, any foods that contain sugar, not necessarily so much things like fruit, although fruits contain sugar, a special type of sugar. When I say special, I mean it's processed by the body differently. The sugars, when you ingest them, it prompts a response from the body. That response involves an elevation of blood sugar. That blood sugar goes throughout all of your extremities. It goes to your fingers, it goes to your toes, it goes to your eyes, it goes to your brain. Wherever you have veins and blood vessels, that increased level of blood sugar will make their way to them. The problem, it was, okay, gotcha. So, all right, I'm not even gonna address, I'm not even gonna address that. Okay, so specific strategies that probably, when we go back to the habit formation, try to use a calendar. If anyone has ever used a calendar before, a calendar could be helpful. This was a strategy I first heard from Jerry Seinfeld. It's called Don't Break the Chain. You have a calendar and you have your goals, you have your key results, you have your behaviors you want to focus on. Let's say you want to go to the gym. You will put a red X or a red check for every single day that you successfully completed those tasks. Your goal is to go the whole month without breaking that chain. You just want to see a long chain of red X's and check marks. And that apparently is what Jerry Seinfeld did to become the legendary comedian that he became. So that's called the break the chain. And it's a calendar, right? Because it's a visual too. You could also get a journal where you are keeping track of your goals. It's very similar to a calendar, but I think a journal, you can you can do a little bit more self-reflection. And I think a self-reflection could be important too. Self-reflection being asking yourself a couple of questions at the end of the day and when the day starts to help either review how your day went, give yourself a little bit of constructive feedback, or preview how you believe your day is going to go. Anticipation, preparation. The Stoics called it meditatio malorum. It's a little bit more pessimistic, but the Stoics, the ancient Stoics, had this process called meditatio malorum, in which they anticipated hurdles, roadblocks, and bad things that could happen and how they could mentally prepare themselves for it simply by realizing bad things could happen. It's called meditatio malorum, meditations of evil. Oh, sounds very morose and sinister. Ooh, sinister. You can review your day. I don't know how often people review their days. Do a recap. I do this with my clients all the time. Whenever, at least 3 times a week, I will ask my clients to send me either what they're eating or how they felt during the day, what they thought they did well, what they thought they could use improvement on, where they fell short, and what they think they can do to improve the next time. How can they improve? And then the preview, including the meditatio malorum, you can say, what am I going to focus on today? So you can review and preview. What about a vision board? Who here has a vision board? Who here has done a vision board before? Vision board, you have a board, maybe it's a cork board. Yes, Z has done vision boards before. You have a cork board, you have something where you can attach a bunch of pictures or drawings. Maybe you take some magazine clippings, you take a picture of things that represent what you want to achieve. YCR, yay! Mary has done it too. So you basically put up pictures of things you want to achieve, things you believe represent you. Oh, okay. Wednesday morning at 4 p.m. Wednesday tomorrow. Sweet, vision boards. Yay. Okay, I'm not going to talk about it that much because I'm sure if you could do a program specifically on vision boards, it's going to be way better than what I would say. But essentially, you are putting a bunch of things that you want to achieve, that you want your future to look like, or you want your identity to look like on a board in plain view so you can see it all the time, or maybe just a little bit out of view. I have done vision boards in the past. For me, they didn't work that well for me because I struggled with self-confidence a lot, and I'm a perfectionist, but I'm one of those perfectionists who I used to not do things that were difficult because I didn't want to fail. I wanted to be very comfortable in knowing whatever I put my mind to, I will do well, simply to save myself from the embarrassment of failure. Whenever I do a vision board, in the past when I did vision boards, because of my history of poor self-confidence and my personality, my inclinations, I tend to beat myself up a little bit too much if my vision doesn't come to fruition. But I know very driven people who have vision boards and it works fantastic for them. I have a client he has a vision board, and one of his vision is to be able to drive a BMW. And just recently he was able to drive his BMW, and he didn't break the bank for it. He worked hard and he eventually was able to achieve it. He has a very different personality from me, but he made it work. So vision boards can work for people. That's the vision board. Reading. It seems pretty, oh man, I know it's definitely not obvious that we would talk about reading books in a library program. Just kidding. I'm really terrible at jokes too, by the way, if you haven't noticed. Books. I'm a huge nonfiction reader. My book list, I don't know if Z is going to share them with you. I have a book list. Atomic Habits is one. Good Habits, Bad Habits is another. The Power of Habits is another. Mindset. Why We Get Sick. The Hungry Brain, and Psycho-Cybernetics And then the last one, which I was just thinking off the top of my head, is a book that just came out this year. It's called Eat Smarter. Eat Smarter by Sean Stevenson. It just came out this year. I have it. I have it somewhere. I have it somewhere. I have so many books, and I've read all of these, by the way. But yes, reading, I think, can obviously help because it expedites the process in which you become a master. So if all you're doing is going to the gym, I mean, you're going to do a great job. But reading nonfiction books geared towards helping you gain more knowledge about health and fitness can obviously help. But also maybe like memoirs and biographies and autobiographies and historical fiction where there is a story, a coherent story and a plot where it goes through that normal like hero arc where there is a person and the person has come across an obstacle. There is a process in which they become more adept, they overcome the obstacle, and then they become a hero. And maybe some of these stories can relate to you. I think reading can be very beneficial for people. If we have a lot of readers in here and you know any book that has had a positive impact on your life, then you would probably understand also the importance of it. There are two books that had profound impacts on my life. The first one is called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. It was written by a rabbi, and he basically wanted to write a book to non-believers about why bad things happen to good people. It was very sad for me because I used to be of the mindset where I needed to be positive. I needed to be optimistic. I could do this. I got to be really gung-ho. That put a lot of things into perspective, right? And then as a father, it's put a lot of things into perspective too. The other book is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, who's a psychologist. He was a Holocaust survivor. It's Man's Search for Meaning. Those two books have made profound impacts on my life, and I think have changed me for the better. They're very depressing. They're very depressing reads. And, but I think, at least in my case, and maybe hopefully in some of your cases, seeing how harsh reality can be in other people's lives can maybe give you the jolt of motivation that you need. I think that's good. I think we're wrapped. I think, at least for me, I can't really think of anything else to talk about, although I can always talk about more stuff, especially if people ask me questions. But I think for now,
question.
For sure.
Question in the chat house. Hi, everybody. This is Z interjecting. We did have a participant ask, what do you suggest for tingling in the hands during the night?
Tingling during the hands during the night. That's usually something that should be seen by a neurologist. And because I'm not a neurologist, I unfortunately cannot give any specific recommendations. If it's anything like restless leg syndrome, then magnesium could help. But the tingling fingers could be as a result of a multitude of things. It could be, I've had people who get tingling in their fingers, numbness in their fingers because they have what's called thoracic outlet syndrome, which is just tight muscles here that are compressing the nerves, the brachial plexus. It could also be a neurological thing. It could also be diabetes. It could be high blood pressure. It could be, I don't know, maybe you sleep on your finger. That's so stupid. I'm sorry. It could be a multitude of things. And unless a neurologist has seen it, I can't make any stern recommendations, unfortunately. Sorry.
Thanks, David. We had someone suggest that if you have your hand in a specific position for a long period of time, it could cause tingling, like falling asleep, if you sleep on a body part.
It very well could be. So I know I said that kind of tongue in cheek. I said it was stupid of me to say that. I was saying that kind of tongue in cheek. I mean, I think that's the obvious one, right? But I also feel that maybe I'm just not cultured enough. I don't get that complaint a lot. I'm certainly not cultured enough.
We had a question about drinking water. Is it important to drink hot water when you get up in the morning, 1 cup, or drink water before you go to bed at night so you don't get dehydrated overnight? So people
Yeah.
are just asking, we know we should drink water throughout the day, but what are best practices for bedtime and in the morning?
So that's really interesting that the participants specify the temperature. So the temperature is really interesting because the temperature can also kind of determine how much work the body has to do in order to I don't know, let that water dissimulate through osmosis, because the body wants to absorb the water when it's at room temperature. There is a saying in the Chinese culture, is the Asian culture, at least, you know, growing up for me, I was born in Maryland, so I wasn't deep into that Korean culture, but my wife is Korean, my parents are, my mother is Korean, and I went to Korea. I've lived there for a few years. They don't drink water while they're eating. I don't know in the Western culture, especially in the American culture, I don't think they really have a thought about it. But in the Asian cultures, they do not drink water. They only drink tea, hot tea or soup during their meals, because they believe that water, where the Chinese do, they believe that water douses the fire of the dragon's den or something like that. And the dragon's den is your stomach. If you drink water, according to the Chinese proverb, it interferes with digestion, because your body now has to focus on getting the water out of your stomach, because the water will inflate your stomach versus processing the food. When it comes to best practices for water, I'm a big fan of drinking water as soon as you wake up. I like to put water on a schedule the same way that I put my meals on a schedule. How much water you should drink, it falls in a range. You take your body weight, 0.5, so half of your body weight, to 0.75, so 3/4 of your body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you're going for anywhere between 100 to 150 ounces of water per day. You want to break that up into 3 to 4 times. I am a big fan of drinking about either 1/4 to 1/3 of that as soon as you wake up in the morning. Yes, I know in Ayurveda, they do recommend to drink warm water because it doesn't shock the body as much. But when it comes to creating a structure, I'm a big fan of drinking first thing in the morning, because you are dehydrated in the morning, especially if let's say you sleep for 8 hours, you're not waking up in the middle of the night to drink water. Some people do. Your body goes 8 hours without eating or drinking. It's technically dehydrated. Drink first thing in the morning, 1/4 to 1/3 of your daily needs, and then maybe drink water before and or after your meals, since most likely that's when you're going to have the most flexibility. I'm not sure. You have to look at your schedule. And then, so you don't wake up in the middle of the night, I would recommend not drinking water anywhere between an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed. If you are on a good water schedule where you're drinking water first thing as you wake up, and then you're sandwiching your meals with water, you're not going to have to need to drink water at night, because the body will have already had enough water in the cells, outside the cells, so that you're not going to get thirsty. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thanks so much. That was great, David.
Yay. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
Just a comment from a participant: drinking a lot of water right before eating dilutes digestive enzymes.
So I don't know where that came from. It certainly sounds plausible to me, but I don't know where the diluting the enzyme comes from, because if we look at the stomach is a very acidic environment. Enzymes can go through a process called denaturation. Denaturation can be affected when a protein, and enzymes are proteins, like digestive enzymes are proteins, when they interact with heat, for example, the egg yolk, or the egg whites, when you cook eggs, how it hardens, turns white. And if you crack the egg yolk, it it hardens into a flat yellow. It's not gooey anymore. That's called denaturation. The protein structure is changing. And in some cases, the denaturation process doesn't change anything. The egg changing the structure and the form doesn't really change how it's absorbed. So in that case, the denaturation is whatever. But in some cases, when enzymes become denatured, it makes them ineffective. You have heat, and acidity are the two primary things that will denature proteins and enzymes, which is why in the stomach, you will not find enzymes in the stomach because those enzymes will become denatured. The only thing you really find in the stomach, hydrochloric acid and CCK, which is cholecystine kinase. And that is a sensor. It's a sensor for how much fat is actually entering the stomach. But really, because the pH in the stomach is so acidic, because of the hydrochloric acid, you're not going to find the enzymes. And the only food that really gets broken down in your stomach is a protein, meats or eggs or vegetable sources of protein. Carbohydrates and fats do not get broken down in the stomach. They're broken down more. The carbohydrates start the breakdown process in the mouth. The saliva breaks down the carbohydrates, and the fats actually don't get broken down. Fats are they're called emulsified. What the body does, the CCK and other enzymes will attach themselves to fats, like the fats you find in avocado or cream, increase their surface area, and then they just kind of get absorbed into the small intestine. But the breakdown process for carbohydrates starts in the mouth, and then it finishes off in the small intestine. The breakdown process for protein starts in the stomach. So you're not going to find digestive enzymes in the stomach unless you're in a really poor disease state. There is a condition called SIBO, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And this is when you are going to find an overgrowth of bacteria that should be in your large intestine, in your small intestine. And that's when you're going to get leakage into your stomach. And then you get acid leaking into your small intestine. That's not a good thing.
David?
I didn't mean to push back on that person.
No. I looked it up on the Mayo Clinic, and it says, the question, does drinking water during or after a meal disturb digestion? And they say there's no concern that water will dilute the digestive juices or interfere with digestion. In fact, drinking water during or after a meal actually aids in the digestion, like you said, because water is essential for good health. Water and other liquids help us break down food so our body can absorb the nutrients. So
yes.
There is a question which was directed to my co-host and not me. So I have it here. Someone would like to know if you have an opinion on the TV type doctors like Dr. Oz.
I feel this is kind of me being Is it me being cynical? No, not me being cynical. It's not cynical. If I was cynical, I'd be like, oh, well, they suck. No, that's not. This is me being, I guess, realistic. These guys, even though they're not trained as registered dietitians, they probably know far more about nutrition and the human body than I do. I mean, Dr. Oz is a world-class surgeon. I mean, I think he was at Newark, right? And he's a cardiac surgeon. He did surgery on some celebrities, some really rich people who bodies worth way more than mine. So my opinion of them is, at the end of the day, they probably have a persona to uphold on TV. I read Dr. Oz's book. He has several books out. It's like there's one called like New You or 2.0 or something like that. Like Dr. Oz has several books. I read a couple of them, and they're well written. The thing is, because they bombard you with so much information, it's really hard to have an opinion, right? Because you have one supplement, and then he has another supplement, and another supplement. So yeah, my opinion is take things with a grain of salt, the same way that you would take me with a grain of salt. Take him with a grain of salt, and when in doubt, do a little bit of research, do your own research, and then if you find that it's safe, then try to experiment. but I don't really have an opinion on them. Sorry. And plus, I know that if I have a negative opinion on people, it'd probably make me look bad too, right? I forgot what's that saying. It's like, if you project onto other people, then you seem like whatever you're projecting that person into, or whatever, the way you characterize another person.
I looked it up. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio, raised in Delaware, received his undergraduate degree from Harvard University, and obtained a joint MD and MBA in 1986 from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine and Wharton Business School.
So he's just okay. You know what? I changed my opinion of him. He's just a random dude. I don't think you should take anything he says seriously. Like he went to no name colleges. I'm just kidding.
David.
Oh my gosh. If he went to Ivy Leagues, I went to Oak League. No, I'm just kidding. Get it?
Yes, I get it. That's your joke. You know, it says also he's also vice chair and professor of surgery at Columbia University.
Columbia. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Columbia. I thought it was Newark for some reason. Yeah. Hey, if it makes anyone feel better, so one of my clients, he is probably the top vascular surgeon in the country. He works at UPenn, University of Pennsylvania. That's Dr. Oz's alma mater. He's the director of vascular surgery there. Guy is wicked smart. He eats a bunch of meat. He eats a lot of red meat and drinks a lot of bourbon. And he's pretty healthy. And he's a vascular surgeon. But if you eat a bunch of red meat and drink bourbon and you need some vascular work, you can go to him. That wasn't very funny. Sorry.
All right. Well, I think that rounds out our hour plus. So thank you so much, David. We're so grateful to you for sharing time with us and bringing, discussion to light. And I've given out your email to everybody, and I want to say it now. So it's David, then the little @ strongbylee.com. So I put it in the chat for those of us who are on the Zoom, and I know that this is on Facebook Live too. So I'm saying it again, David, DAVID, that little @ STRONGBYLEE.com. So if you have any specific questions that you want to discuss with David, he said he would be more than happy, right, to have an email exchange.